Hello and welcome to this immersive session on value-driven service delivery by Indian ER&D organizations. My name is Karan Kamal. I'll be moderating this session. This is a part two of this session on the same topic. Previously, we had Isaac Raj from Collins Aerospace as well as Pradeep from Philip Health Systems sharing their thoughts from a GCC perspective. For today's session, let me start by setting some context. India has emerged as one of the dominant players in engineering and R&D space, thanks to the contributions of service providers. We created the series called the Immersive series to understand from a practitioner's as well as from a thought leader's perspective on how some of these leaders are making this happen, how they made it happen in the past, and how are they planning to make it happen in the future. As a part of the session today, we have Srikanth Kulkarni, who is the Vice President and Head of Automotive at Tech Mahindra, and Ben Harrison, Global Head of ER&D COE at Tata Technologies, joining us today. Srikanth, Ben, if you could introduce yourselves, please.
Hi, good morning, and thanks, Karan, for inviting and introducing briefly. So, my name is Srikanth Kulkarni. I currently head the automotive business unit in Tech Mahindra. Having around 3 decades of experience in automotive industry, hardcore engineer from the OEM background of Mahindra Group, transitioned into the engineering services since last 10 years, and currently looking forward for the biggest opportunities in this space of automotive. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Srikanth. Over to you, Ben.
Yeah, good morning. My name is Ben Harrison. As you said, I'm the global head of the Centre of Excellence for Engineering Research and Design at Tata Technologies. And within that, I've got responsibility for electrical and electronics, embedded chassis, powertrain, body engineering, manufacturing, physical virtual validation, teardown benchmarking, VAVE, supply chain. So quite a large scope. As the audience may gather, I'm English. Based out of the UK office in Warwick, but I do have a global team of about 300, predominantly in India, but also across the UK, Romania, USA, and Sweden. Been with Tata Technologies about 6 years, started in their industrial and heavy machinery line of business and took my current role April 2021. Key achievements, I think, while I've been there include things like program manager for the Tata Hitachi Shinrai program, the backhoe loader, which was new because it was a whole machine deliverables based project. And I've also was the sponsor for the EVMP accelerator project. In terms of history, worked in engineering product development for basically my whole career, over 25 years, spending the majority of my career at Land Rover while it was part of Rover Group and Caterpillar, but I've also worked for Visteon, Nissan and Fairline Yachts. Also spent 2 years of my career living and working in China, and have over 15 India stamps on my passport now. So good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much, Ben. Thanks, Srikanth, as well. So looking forward to to you sharing your insights based on your experience. So let me begin with my first question. In the recent years, how do you think the customer expectations have changed with respect to service providers? As I said, Indian ER&D has evolved over the years. So what are customers really expecting from you in this new age? So Ben, if you would like to go first on this.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of big things that have gone on. I think the OEMs that we work with now are certainly looking for standardization of processes, tools, and methods. That's coming across as a very strong requirement. I think there's a level of increased expectation, together with a recognition of value and not just price. They're looking for a value offering from an ESP. And what that's doing is a requirement to drive our offering up the value chain. So away from what was historically the GEC model, perhaps looking at different deliverable models or what our capabilities are that we can offer to those customers. They're moving, and I referred to it with the Shinrai project, into more of an end-to-end management, maybe a turnkey or deliverable-based type solution. And we have to offer things like what we call at TTL, follow the sun. So, I talked about where I have my team members working, but somebody, every hour of the day in the globe actually working and supporting those customer needs. I think there's been some interesting recent changes as well. You know, global COVID's had a global impact, and what that has shown is remote working is possible everywhere. And I think that what that has shown is perhaps companies that were maybe reluctant before in an ESP and offshore delivery, that's shown an interest in them. You know, if their employees in the States can work away from the office, we can leverage an offshore capability as well. And so we really need to align that delivery value with what the customer need is moving forward. Yeah, and I guess in summary, it's a real big focus on the build versus buy model to build new solutions, offerings, and linkage to the projects that our customers are wanting to work. I hope that answers your question.
Thanks, Ben. Srikanth, if you could share your thoughts on this, how is it changed from a Tech Mahindra perspective?
Yeah, I think I'll try to put in the perspective. I think all of us, and especially the automotive industry, is witnessing the huge transformation in the technology. I think we are lucky to witness this transition. Very important to understand this transition. And currently OEMs or maybe tier ones or the clients, they're into dilemma. And that dilemma, I would like to divide into two categories. There's a big challenge in front of the customer for sustenance. In the current competition, there's a severe competition, cutthroat competition, be it the quality, be it the cost, be it the deliveries. So how do we sustain the existing business? That is the huge worry today. And the expectations accordingly vary with respect to that particular bucket. And the second bucket, it talks about building the new, right? How do we maybe future ready? Maybe be it the electrification, be it the autonomous, right? Be it the entire platooning, all those technology, how do we ready? These are the two clear-cut challenges in front of OEM. On the first bucket, they would definitely expect whether a service provider is capable or able to take the complete ownership of R to part. Or maybe it's kind of a complete value-based proposition, outcome-based proposition, or the large work packages, taking the complete ownership from right from, say, for example, in automotive world, it is right from style to the production, covering the entire value chain. That is where the USP they will look from the service provider, which will be very unique, and we are nicely placed from Tech Mahindra perspective. And if you look at the second bucket, which talks about the future ready, right? The electrification is severely under changes. We are talking severely on the autonomous stuff. So as a service provider, how are we partnering? How are we trying to provide a solution to all these technologies? I think that would be a key expectation from the OEMs and for that matter, all tier ones and the different clients. That's what I can say on this first point.
Perfect, Srikanth. So you're talking about, the sustenance part, and then you spoke about the new, right? So as we enter the era of new, right, there is a new kind of talent that's needed. The paradigms of this talent has changed, and we also see that the market is in a state of flux in the given scenario. So how are you really looking at fostering talent in your respective organizations to actually drive the future? Srikanth, if you could go first.
Yeah. I think it's very interesting, and the model is very evolving in Tech Mahindra especially. I think the traditional way of this skilling, upskilling, the cross-skilling, right? And there is no more a liberty for us in terms of very domain specific or very CAD operating specific, be it the CATIA, UGNX. Those transitioning into the different environment, that is where the flexibility will try to bring in. So it needs a lot of training, lot of upskilling from that operating perspective, as well as aligning to the future technologies, right? I think right from the academia, I'll just touch upon that academia part, maybe later part of our discussion. That is where the actual the talent hunt and talent search will start. and how do we start roping into the entire spectrum of automotive offerings. That is where we, Tech Mahindra, we start focusing on that. We have a beautiful model. We call it as IRT, which is a Sanskrit word. It is about future mobility, right? And for automotive, I think that is a dream for all of us. This community dreams about the entire future mobility. It's like a mobile device. That is what we are envisioning as the product, right? So the whole focus is train and deploy. Train and deploy. I think that's a simple mantra what we are trying to adopt here. It is across domains, across verticals, across spectrum of the entire product development process. That is where the focus is in this IRT model. And very importantly, how differently it is. It is kind of hands-on training. It is not a kind of a lab room or the lectures, but it is supported by the hands-on training. I think that is where we are trying to keep an edge on the talent front currently.
Perfect, Shrikant. Ben, your thoughts, because you run a pretty large center of excellence focused on ER&D. So how are you enabling, the fostering of talent as a part of your group?
So I think one of the key things to this is TTL. When I took on my new role, changed to an outside-in organisation and started using things like the technology roadmaps and the domain roadmaps together with what we call future fit, our skills mapping, to start identifying the actual needs of what the business is. We start taking the true customer wants and needs and linking that to the build versus buy and the training requirements. Shrikant's just said, again, we're trying to have strong links with academia, both inside India and outside. And some of you may have seen on LinkedIn and things like that, the learning environment and the centres of innovation, invention, incubation that TTL is working through our education team and building the relationships in India that way. We've also developed what we call Tech Varsity, which is like our an internal university to help grow and focus on the talent needs and the capability growth around the competency catalogue. And then there's some of the softer stuff as well. Look at the onboarding process, where we get the talent from, what the needs are there. Internally, as we just said, look at the training, how that's done, leverage TTL tools like I Get It, and external tools like LinkedIn Learning, so we can leverage what's available, even if people are working from home. And then in terms of actually attracting the talent, I think we all know the issues with lateral hiring in India, and it's a global issue as well. So looking at the pyramid and the recruitment pyramid, and how we do bottom of the pyramid graduate hiring and develop people and foster the talent through the business at all levels. So it may involve stretching people slightly, but in the current market, if you're struggling to lateral hire, putting tools and methods in place to grow your business from the bottom of the pyramid. And then through that, we have to campaign to make Tata Technologies attractive and attract the talent that we need.
Great. So Ben and Shrikant, again, you spoke about how you're actually leveraging the universities as a way to create the pipeline for talent. But at the same time, if you've got to be a step ahead of your customers with respect to domain and technology, that expertise also needs to be developed at a mid-level as well as at a senior level, right? To have those deep consultative conversations with your customers. How are you able to do that today? How are you really able to, stay ahead of your customers in these conversations? Ben, if you would like to.
Okay, sorry. I think I referred to it earlier, but we made an organizational change about 18 months ago to go for this outside-in mindset, a strong customer-focused team. And what that allows and supports is development of customer technology roadmaps. And within the COEs, what we then do is, if we look at the roadmaps of the customers, we can pull out the domain requirements and build the domain requirement technology roadmaps, going out to 2030 and beyond. What that really does is, as you've just said, give us that vision of where none of us have a crystal ball, but as good as we can do, it gives us that vision of where the customers are going. and what skills, capabilities, technologies we need to put in place to be one step ahead of the customer by domain. You know, again, internally, we do some other things. You know, we try and focus on new solutions and innovations for customers. We have an internal R&D process where we invest a certain amount of money into building skills and capabilities where, you know, maybe we can't do it alongside a customer program. And as you said, we need to get one step ahead, so we have to invest in that. And again, we encourage innovation from the team through both Tata Technologies and Tata Group's Innovista program. So that's where people can take innovation and we can share it globally and encourage our employees to do that through you know, entering into Innovista. And just as a reference point, Tata Technologies have actually been finalists in Tata Group Innovista for the last 2 years, and actually we were the winners last year. So you know that process to do that is clearly working. Again, the other thing we've done that's slightly different as part of that reorganization is we moved to the matrix organization. So the program teams now focus on delivery efficiency, and what that frees up is allowing my team to focus on delivery excellence and freeing some of the pure program needs away from my team. Just frees us up some time to develop those sort of processes, methods, tools that you referred to that allow us to get ahead of the customer in terms of the technologies, domains, partners, processes we need to be a step ahead.
Ben, thank you there. Shrikant, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's technology and the customer succeed in terms of the expectation. So very beautiful. The word which we have coined in Tech Mahindra, what we call as physical.
Mm-hmm.
And our all actions revolve around this. When I say it is digital, for all the physics, for all the physical models, for all the physical activities, what customer is expected, we try to have the digital layer, digital application, because that is the buzzword. That is what as a value customer is expecting from all of us as a service provider. When I say that, for example, if you take the product development process, it's a very unique in each of the OEMs. But if I'm able to articulate the digital mapping into the entire product development process, be it the AR/VR technology, be it the digital twin, right? Be it the entire simulation, how am I able to front loading? And effectively, the end result is how am I trimming the product development time? So huge innovation, huge advantage in terms of early introduction of products, cutting down all the expenses, and be ready into the market. So that is the process improvement which I just talked about. And while doing so, maybe the heavy investment from our side on the proof of concepts, right? Apart from digital, am I able to demonstrate a physical, live, a functional prototype? I'm very glad that Tech Mahindra has developed a digital EV platform, scalable to autonomous, a modular, scalable right from the SUV to the big size of the vehicle, including the quadricycle. So if we are able to articulate, demonstrate the digital as well as the physical, so that's the reason I called it as a physical way of working in Tech Mahindra. I think that is what we will succeed in expecting the customer expectation. I think those are the dialogues which will give a trust to the customer, the language, the way we are able to articulate, the way we are able to build, the way we are able to put forward in terms of partnering kind of a discussion. I think that is where I feel the customer will see a value in terms of the technology, because I am also talking about the process. And in that entire process of discussion, I'm also touch basing with the domain. I think the heavy richness in domain, that is a given fact now, but how frugally I'm able to manage across the vehicle domains so that I'm able to meet the customer expectation. I think that is the art which we are trying to build in through physical word, which were coined beautifully inside the technique.
That's very interesting, Shrikant, the point that you bring up, right? So as we know, the whole context of engineering and R&D process is getting reimagined. right? So there is a proliferation of digital R&D, automation, etc. And you did highlight a few things there. So Ben, how is Tata Technologies looking at this paradigm of reimagining the ER&D through new age processes?
I think Shrikant said it correctly about customers wanting reduced development time, and a lot of the change that's being driven now links to that. Especially in automotive, which is where we do a lot of our work, and I think Shrikant does a lot of his work. There's what we call the startup mindset, which is very different to how the traditional OEMs have operated for many years, and there's a very clear message there that they want a faster time to market. So there's a number of when you talk about differences of process and technologies, there's a number of things that we're seeing. One is a definite transition from waterfall project management into more agile. We're seeing multiple ER&D customers moving over to agile. We know it's been used in IT for many years, but certainly modifying the process slightly for E&D. And breaking an MPI program away from traditional gateway milestones into sprints. So that's one process where we're seeing differently. I think you referred to it, the increased use of automation and digital. There's a definite requirement of the use of digital tools to accelerate that development, whether it's through requirement capture, simulation, virtual validation, software testing, on hills and rigs rather than prototypes. And some of that's being driven by the customer, and some of it's being driven by legislation. When you're delivering cars into North America or into Europe that need functional safety, ISO 26262, you need that level of traceability, and those digital tools are available to help you support that traceability, through the development of the V cycle and then when the car goes to market. Again, I referred to it earlier, but the startups are bringing in a different way of thinking to the traditional OEMs around things like the use of prototypes, low volume tooling. Some of them are coming in and reducing the amount of prototype testing or the amount of prototype tooling that we have and want to go straight to production tooling. And that drives a very different mindset as well. Specifically with TTL, we have tools that we use. We have a product health quality index that we use as a metric against our programs to make sure they're healthy. And again, we have available, and Shrikant referred to the Tech Mahindra electric vehicle platform. We have something similar that we offer. It's an accelerator. We can give customers a digital platform that they can use to start their program. It's called EVMP, Electrical Vehicle Module Platform. But then we've also developed digital tool chains like Pulse, which we use for requirements, task and issue management, Falcon for product data management, and Blitz, which is our engineering toolbar for automation and has check tools in it. And all of those meet effectively what we're going to deliver the customer requirements to try to get to market quicker and leveraging those digital tools to help us get there.
Certainly very interesting perspectives, Ben. Just a quick announcement here for the audience. If you want to post some questions and seek some deeper insights from Ben and Shrikant, please feel free, and we'd be happy to bring it up during the course of our conversation. So Ben, continuing with the discussion, in the market that we are in today, right? It's very difficult for probably companies to bring in the individual might and muscle to address the evolving requirements, and there's a need for partnerships. How are you looking at the partnership ecosystems across multiple fronts, right? Could be from a talent perspective, could be from a technology perspective. So how are you looking at the partnership ecosystem? How are you leveraging the partner ecosystem to bring exponential value to your customers?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, because Tata Technologies has to, and probably most DSPs have to sit both sides of the fence with this one. Some of our customers will already have that partnership network in place, and we have to be agnostic and show a level of flexibility to work with the partners that they bring to us. Equally, you know, as we are currently putting a lot of efforts, and it's one of the tasks that comes under my team, under the reorganization, is to build up that network of partners, products, and tool chains. You know, in line with that technology roadmap that I discussed earlier. You know, so they are available for as solutions, either to startups or OEMs that are looking for something different when they have a gap. You know, it's something that my team's doing a lot of work on at the moment, is going out there into the market globally. You know, we're leveraging the global team to do this, to find out who are the right people to work with, and who provides the right solutions to the customers that we work with. But what I would also say is there's not necessarily a one-fits-all solution. You know, depending who the customer is, the market they're working in. You know, some of our customers are off-highway, and the normal automotive solution doesn't necessarily work for an off-highway customer. So we have to go in with a fairly open mind as well, and the solution that can meet the broad base of customers that we're working with. Sorry, Karen, we can't hear.
Sorry, I just so Shrikant, your thoughts on this, please?
Yeah, I think
how you are leveraging the partnerships.
Yeah. I think this is very interesting, and every day it is a learning for all of us. In Tech Mahindra, I think the entire automotive offerings, it is beautifully carved into what we call spectrum as the rainbow spectrum, which is right from chip to cloud strategy. Right? It encompasses right from chip to entire participation into hardware, software, the validations, establishments, and then ultimately managing through cloud. That is a spectrum what we are talking, because I think that is the layer which we want to bring in the discussion. That is the layer which we want to excite the end customer. And while we have to attempt this, as you rightly said, it is impossible for one person to manage the entire spectrum of this rainbow. We need to look for the partners. And if you look at the buzzword today, it is SDV. It is all software-defined vehicles. That is where the future for automotive. And this is not very easy to understand, this spectrum. Right? It needs the chip manufacturers. It needs a lot of software installation. It needs the writing of hardware in the right architecture. It needs the cloud support to analyze, to manage, and we need to collaborate with the Google, Amazons of the world, right? And while we do so, how do we look at the infra, which will be predominantly provided by government, right? Be it the testing agencies, be it the readiness from the entire emissions test setup point of view, be it the safety regulations setup point of view. So how do we partner proactively these with agencies and also advise? It is not only kind of a one-way kind of a discussion. How do we advise in terms of what is that future is going to come up, how the infra is going to be set up, what is the necessary and what is the readiness from the government point of view, so that we rightly calibrate with our end customer. So the government also is coming into the picture. And I was talking about the academy. I think this we should not forget, because that is the backbone and starting point for us. Young and very vibrant talent available for us to deploy into this entire automotive spectrum. So how do we front load into the academia, our syllabus, the right practical oriented projects? Is it possible? Yes. And that is what we are witnessing. How early we are involving the entire academia here and taking their help in the POCs, in the future technologies as well. I think that is the whole spectrum of the ecosystem what we are talking currently. And I say huge benefit, and Tech Mahindra is leveraging all of this ecosystem across the globe. Not only the internal group ecosystem, but global ecosystem. I just now mentioned about the chip, the cloud, the government, not only India, but across the different regions and also the academy. I think that is what I can say, the involvement and leveraging the entire ecosystem for the technology.
Perfect. So, one of the key things, for Indian R&D to have been so successful is the trust that's been created by some of the Indian ER&D service providers with the customers. How do you continue to enhance this trust? Because that's the key in terms of being able to drive growth. And you did mention about a few things in the past, which is how we are aligning yourself to the technology roadmaps for your customers, how we are able to bring in the right kind of talent, train the talent, ensure that they're closely engaged with the customer. What else has been like the secret sauce to building this trust with the customers? Ben, over to you.
Yeah, it's a good question. There's certainly I would say perhaps a slightly differentiated model with the global mindset they offer and the global delivery centers. One of the things that TTL has that maybe is different to pure India ESPs is actually 15% of our employees are outside of India. And many sitting close to the customer to drive a level of intimacy with the customer. It drives a one team mindset both across the business and that one team mindset with the customer as well. And I guess what I'd say as well is many of the engineers that are close to the customer sit outside India. Often we've deputed from India. So they come and understand the customer. Often sometimes when they go home, they take that knowledge and trust of the customer back with them. That helps with things like I referred to earlier. There's clearly this change of relationship as we move up the value chain. And as you move into new areas, you need to continue to build that level of trust. So you can confirm that you're delivering the programs. And that comes as well with the change of the level of capability, maturity, and experience that's expected of us. We have to give them a confidence we can deliver the additional challenges that they're now giving us. It comes with a change of the proposition, and we've talked about this. Away from the GEC, perhaps more into something that's deliverables based in terms of project delivery. And I think, as Shrikant said earlier as well, it's using things like the technology roadmaps and the training, the capability to give the customer a level of confidence, because the market is moving. Product development is moving. When you build a plan now for a vehicle program, the critical path moves from mechanical, where it used to be, to software. And it's putting those solutions in place as well. The bench testing, the sill hill, moving the mountain to front end load the program to ensure the software robustness, because of that now becomes the critical path to your start of production. So it's those tools and processes and methods that you can put in place that demonstrate your capability, maturity, and experience. I think that's what gives you the confidence to the end customer.
Perfect. Shrikant, your thoughts on how you've been a part of this industry for quite some time now. So how have you really, looked at fostering this trust with your customers?
Yeah, I'll add a couple of points what Ben has talked about. See, apart from being close to the customer, that definitely is a good start for us. What we have seen the biggest challenges is the cultural alignment, right? The language barriers for us, because each client, not only the regional biases, but they have their own culture within the company itself. So how do we really align with that thought process? By having some local presence with some local guys, right? So that they're front-ending rightly and they're representing Tech Mahindra or for that matter, Tata Technologies in a very right manner, aptly, so that the cultural aspect and the entire bonding takes place within. I think that is the first level of trust. Definitely, I think Ben also talked about it, and I strongly put forward that point, which is very, very important. While doing so, are we in the taking the order, or are we in the consulting stage, or are we already acquired kind of an advisory position with the customer? I think that is where it makes the difference. Definitely, because if the client is working on a product, say for a duration of 3 years for a specific market, how well, right, next down the line, maybe 5 years, the technology is going to adapt for India, for example, India market, the legislations which are going to come, the safety points which are going to come, the customer habits which are going to change, the environmental effects, the regulations which are going to be imposed from government. Are we able to bring those kind of a discussion with the customers right at the conceptual and architecture phase? I think if you are able to have that kind of a discussion, I think that is the biggest trust customer will have with us. It is not only a current program, but how I am trying to secure the future of that product into the given market for next 10 to 15 years. I think if you are able to strike that chord with the customer, I think that is the trust which I'm seeing it here. And very important, I think, how do we challenge the status quo? I think that is where we have seen any OEM loves that, any client loves that. Though it is very difficult to change the status quo, but how do we challenge the status quo? How do we challenge their standards? How do we challenge the methods? How do we customize based on the local requirements, be it the manufacturing, be it the testing environment, right? Be it the sourcing entire cluster. How do we bring in all those topics for a benefit of the customer so that all things are captured right at the concept stage, so that we hit first time right and every time right? I think those kind of a discussion, those kind of things, if we're able to bring and discuss and demonstrate with critical examples, I think that would start building a trust. And we have seen that with changing, that approach has given us the best results in recent past time.
Perfect. So my follow-up question is, we have also seen the engagement models evolve over the years, from time and material, fixed price, to more risk reward, revenue share. Do you see that it's actually becoming a reality in terms of these models being, in fact, proposed by service providers and also adopted by customers? And I also have a question from Pritesh, who asks, is there a change in the revenue model that you're witnessing across your client base, or more concerned not just to sell their products, but also to sell sticker services in terms of data, asset monetization, predictive analytics that comes along with once the product is sold? So given these emerging kind of paradigms, so are you proposing new kinds of models to your customers? So Ben, if you would want to go first there.
I think I partially answered this question in the introduction. Yes, we are. I think I explained one of the programs I've delivered at Tata Technologies was the Tata Hitachi Shinrai project, and that was deliverables based. So, we're seeing that transition there on whole machine or whole vehicles. But actually we're seeing it all the way through, even to, what perhaps historically would have been a GEC. And some of it is driven by resourcing. What traditionally 3 or 4 people would have done, can we make those into much smaller packages of work, or a work package that we can send offshore? Because in the current climate, it gives us far more flexibility to deliver that work with the people that we've got, rather than, a GEC with fixed people. So yes, to answer the question very simply, we are seeing that level of transition to an outcome-based model. The other one, that comes up again, and is a bit of a transition, especially around cost reduction or VAVE type activities, is a risk and reward model as well. The payment becomes a percentage of the savings you offer. So that is a move that we're seeing in the market, or a request we could see come from customers. But again, commercially, you need to understand the the detail and the scope of the risk to the ESP before you go down that path as well, and before you engage with it. Something Shrikant referred to, and we're seeing a lot more demand for, is pre-studies. So getting involved earlier in the program. Perhaps in the past, a lot of OEMs was only involved the ESP post kickoff. To try and drive the value in the engagement model with the customer, where we're actually getting involved before kickoff, more and more, and helping customers develop the scope of their program and in changing the engagement. I think the other question that came from the room was linked to monetization once the vehicle or the product's out in the field. Yes, we're seeing a lot more of that. How you drive a revenue stream, through this software environment we're in now. And Shrikant's talked about it, and it's true. Customers are looking at features on demand, features they can turn on and turn off. So again, very much in our embedded space or in our electronics and electrical integration, working together with our digital team. How we develop features and help our clients develop features, that drives a revenue stream, not just to the point of sale of the product, but continues once that product's out there in the marketplace.
That's great. Shrikant, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think this, I would agree with Ben. I think the risk reward model, I think that is where it has already evolved, along with the large work packages. How do we handle the outcome based or the value based or the risk reward model? I think I'll cut it very short and sweet. It is all about taking a risk, and the risks are quite bigger, because sometimes we talk about it's not only the design services, but it's also about providing a product, managing the product post launches. So the game plan, right into the productionization, right into the aftermarket, right into the warranty management. There is a whole lot of a chain which involves when the physical activity comes in, and there's a lot of risk associated. So a couple of programs, Tech Mahindra has definitely got into this risk and reward, which involved not only the design engineering aspect of it, but the entire manufacturing aspect of it, start delivering the product, and then start getting a revenue, maybe based on the sale of the products. But it's evolving model, and we are not attempted to a very large work package, but to a small work package that is in place now. But that definitely it is a clear demand which is coming us now. Yeah.
Perfect. So we are almost at the top of the hour. So I would just like to have some closing thoughts from you, starting with you, Ben, and then followed by Shrikant in about 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's been an interesting discussion today. I hope that I've answered the questions that you've got. You've given me some very challenging questions, and I hope that we've given an alternative insight to Tata Technologies and its support of the global marketplace as an India out provider. But by being asked to do this today, I hope the global mindsets come along, and that that's something that's very key within our business is we leverage global skill sets wherever they are. I think that's one of the key messages is how we leverage our global footprint to successfully deliver customer programs, I guess, in the current marketplace, which is evolving very quickly, both from a mechanical and a software standpoint.
Absolutely. Shrikant, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think the whole value based, the whole attempt from this industry to please a customer, the ultimate measure for us is how a customer is able to deliver a hit product again and again. Every time there's a new product which hits on the road or comes into the market, it is a hit product. And if, as the service provider, if I'm the engineering partner for it, And more often I see a hit products. I think that is the ultimate measure which we would like to see as the feedback and as a motivation for us to do it again and again with the different clients across the globe. So I think that is the excitement which we carry. There's a whole lot of spectrum which is available from the technology point of view. There's a whole lot of cutthroat competition which is available, which is very positive and which pushes us to give more and more. So I think it is in Hindi, it's did mange more. So it's always customer wants more and more value based, and that is where I see a hit product is the ultimate measure for us, and we'll strive towards it from Tech Mahindra point.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Shrikant and Ben, for sharing your insights today. It was a great learning experience for me, and I'm sure it would have been a great learning experience for our audience as well. A couple of hygiene factors. I see that there are a few more questions in the chat box. So we will attempt to answer those questions as a part of what we call as a playbook. So as subsequent to every immersive session, there's a playbook that gets published, essentially talking about the best practices that we've captured from some of these discussions, as well as some of the other best practices that we've seen from across other service provider organizations as well. So you will see, so you will have some of your questions answered as a part of the playbook because of lack of time today. In addition, there is also going to be a feedback that will be sent to you. So request you to please fill in the feedback about the session, what else you probably wanted to know. So we'll try to attempt and answer those questions as well, as I said, in the playbook. So thank you very much, both of you, Shrikant and Ben, for your time. Thank you to the audience for participating in this. So looking forward to having you as a part of subsequent sessions of NASSCOM. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Karan. Thank you, Ben. Thanks everyone for this opportunity.
Thank you, Karan. Thank you, Shrikant.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Bye-bye.